So the Spade Kingdom War arc has finally arrived in the Black Clover anime, and today we're going to be discussing Black Clover episode 158, but more in particular, explaining Asta's new Timeskip powers. Now, of course, if you are anime only, consider subscribing to the channel because I will try my best to break down every episode during the Spade Kingdom War arc for the anime. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so if you are anime only, you're probably wondering, how is Asta able to fly now without his anti-magic form? And I am here to explain that.
How, Sway?
So when Asta first transformed into his anti-magic devil form, the Witch Queen explains that Asta's flood of anti-magic homes in on mana. So that is why he is able to chase someone down. This is why he's able to fly while he's transformed. His anti-magic, in other words, is pretty much like a magnet to strong magic. This is why when Asta and the others went training with Mereoleona in the Grand Magic Zone and the volcanoes, immediately when Asta transformed, he couldn't stop himself from flying. This is why when Mereoleona was rising up her mana, Asta was being pulled towards her, because anti-magic is attracted to strong magic. Which is exactly why during the battle against Zagreed, when Asta started to increase the power of his anti-magic, his sword started to become very sensitive to Zagreed because Zagreed's magic was overwhelming the entire Shadow Palace. Which is another reason why Lumiere, who also has a strong amount of magic, when he tried to help Asta control his power, Asta accidentally hit him with his anti-magic sword. Because Lumiere has a high mana amount, and during this time, Asta was achieving a breakthrough of new power and he couldn't control it yet. So, how is that Asta is flying in his base form when his anti-magic form and his swords in that form are extremely attracted to strong magic, and where Asta is flying there isn't magic anywhere, so how is he doing this? Well, it actually is magic, and it's around him in the world 24/7. One thing we found out about mana early on in the series is that mana is a supernatural energy that exists in this world and also inside of people. Mana is literally in the air. This is why mages are able to use mana zone, because they can use the zone of the mana in the area to their advantage and increase their own magic. This is another reason why when we seen Asta transform, he was destroying the flowers and the grass on the ground, because mana is inside of everything except Asta. So what Asta is doing here, Asta is using the environment of the world to his advantage, the mana in the world, to create a path for him to fly. So training hard with the Spirit Guardians during those 6 months, Asta has learned how to fully master the ability to fly. Now, another thing that happened in Black Clover episode 158 that a lot of you guys are wondering is, how is Asta able to call upon his Demon Slayer sword now and is able to just fly back to him like Thor's hammer? And this was actually foreshadowed to us back in episode 156. When Asta was fighting Gaia, he lost his swords, but he increased his anti-magic and his sword was able to fly back to him, but he did it unconsciously. The Witch Queen explains that anti-magic energy constantly flows through the sword and also through Asta's body, and he has been emitting and shutting off that power unconsciously. Now, during the 6-month time skip, and now Asta is much stronger and understands his anti-magic, Asta is emitting and shutting off that power consciously now, which is why now he can just call upon his sword anytime, which I find really cool. Another cool upgrade to Asta's power is that we've seen him casually use Black Divider without being transformed. In this episode, we see him use Black Divider constantly, like an on and off switch, and that just goes to show how greatly he has improved using Black Divider, because that is one of his strongest spells. Another new spell we see in this episode was Asta using his Demon Dweller's sword using Black Slash, which now Asta can use his anti-magic in a barrage style, which is a direct reference when we seen Lake fight Asta and Yuno using the Demon Dweller's sword using white slashes, sending them out as projectiles. So Asta, what he did here was mimic the ability and made it his own. And I even love how the anime displayed this spell even better than what happened in the manga, even though both are really good. Another thing to take notice though is that Asta's ki sensing in this episode really showed you how greatly he improved on his sense detection. In this magic fortress that was in the middle of the Grand Magic Zone, Asta was able to pinpoint every location of the soldiers within this fortress, which is why he was able to pop right up at their exact post location. His key detection is not right there with Yami yet, but it's getting close, especially when it comes to muscles, because we see the great improvement on Asta's body, and you can even tell just by his face that he packed on some muscle, which is very common when you lift weights for quite a while, or just working out in general. However, in Asta's case, his workout plan that he has been doing during his 6-month time skip, it definitely worked. He was always a guy who was cut up and in shape already, but now he is on a whole different level. Asta is now a tank. I can only imagine how Asta will look in another 6 months, because during this 6-month time skip, it looks like he gained about 20 to 25 more pounds of muscle. Honestly, if Asta was Yami's height, he probably would look just as big, but just a little smaller. In this episode, we see Asta encounters the captain of the Magic Fortress after beating everyone so easily. However, his body was poisoned by a poison mage user who also has a little bit of power of a devil, but is not exactly like Asta because there's no devil inside his grimoire and he is not a devil host, which is exactly why when Asta was breaking out of this spell using his Demon Destroyer sword, he explained to him that you may have power of a devil, but you only have a tiny bit of it. Without going to spoiler territory, this quote will mean a lot and you will understand why this character had devil powers in the next few episodes to come. But speaking on devil powers, we've seen Asta's anti-magic powers increase even further towards this part of the episode with his black divider raising the sword so high, which made him completely one-shot this captain in the Magic Fortress, and he didn't even stand a chance whatsoever. One thing that the anime really didn't show much detail of was that Asta actually sliced through this Magic Fortress. The anime didn't show that part as well compared to the manga, and that's probably my only gripe of this episode. However, I still think in the end, it still was awesome display of how Asta was utilizing his powers in the episode. Not only his growth, but it showed all the growth of all the other characters, their new spell. A few of the characters' design look a little different, especially Noelle. You can really tell the difference. And same for Leo, because Leo got really tall, which makes sense because his brother is really tall, so it only makes sense that the younger brother is also going to be really tall too, because it's a genetic trait within their family. However, the other part about this episode is that we find out more about the Dark Triad. Now, if you guys want to know everything about the Dark Triad that we know so far, I will be making a video separate for that. So fair warning, it will be a spoiler video, but if you want to see that video, consider subscribing to the channel with notification bells on. I'll be going through and explaining everything we know about each member of the Dark Triad, which is Vanica. The other is Xenon, which if you are anime only, this guy may be your favorite member. Once you see this man in action, prepare for the jump scares. And also, Dante, will be explaining him why out of all the other members, he's the one that's wearing a crown on his head. And if you guys want to see me break down more about the episodes weekly, make sure by showing that by leaving a like on this video. You guys have an awesome life. Take care of yourselves, stay blessed, and I'm out.